Hello, fifth graders. It's Mrs. Wilson here. And today in your Unit 6, it's a review unit. So I wanted to take a minute and review the concepts with you that you have learned with your spelling words in the previous 5 units. So the very first rule that I wanted to review that you learned is that sometimes in a word, when you see two vowels together, each vowel represents its own sound or a different sound. So if you take a look right here at area, the E makes a sound and the A makes a sound. Area. Same thing is true with duet. Okay, the U will make its own sound and then the E makes its own sound. Duet. So those are two examples of when you see two vowels together, they each make their own sound. And I like to look at the word diary. That helps me also see that two vowels together make their very own sounds. And if you look over here at the word poetry, you can see the exact same thing. Poetry. So when you break it down by syllable, you can see that it's the same. It follows that rule. When two vowels are together, they each make their own sound. This helps you in spelling because you can sound it out in your head before you spell it on paper. I like to say when I'm spelling these words, I like to really emphasize both vowel sounds so I remember that they're both there. So I might say in my head, area, or duet, poetry. That helps me know that I need to put the O and the E in there. And then diary. So that's your concept number 1. Concept number 2 that you learned in this unit, you can see, it's when the CH pair, the letter pair, the ch, okay, you might be tempted to say ch, but remember that this, when we have a letter between two slanted lines, that means the sound. So in these words, the CH combination makes the k sound, as in anchor, chemistry, and we have architect, and headache. So remember that those make the k sound when you see the CH. And then also in that unit, you saw the PH sound makes a f, okay, or the letters PH make the f sound. So we see atmosphere and phantom are two good examples of where you see PH making the f or the F sound. All right, now your third rule that you learned in this unit, let me write it here on the whiteboard, okay, is the schwa sound. Now, you remember it kind of looks like this. So we're going to put our sound bar. Okay, that, remember these two lines mean sound, and then this is the schwa, and it sounds like ah, at the end of a word, or it could be at the beginning. So an example where it's spelled with an A at the beginning would be in the word ability. That's ability, that's the schwa at the beginning. Another example would be where. Okay, we have the schwa, the where, sound at the beginning. Now we also learned that it could be at the end spelled with an A too. And that's in words like drama. Okay, drama, you can hear the sound at the end. And pizza. So don't forget it can also be at the end too. All right. Now your fourth concept that you learned was that the last syllable shun, so we have the sound shun, can be spelled T-I-O-N or, so you can see it, S-I-O-N. Now, if you remember the rule for the T-I-O-N, that's when you drop the T that the word has and you add T-I-O-N. So if I had the base word attract, In order to add the shun sound to the end, I drop this T and I add T-I-O-N. Okay. So another example might be congregate. Now I want to add the shun ending, but it already ends in T, so I'm going to cross out the T-E, and I just add congregate, and I add my shun, congregation. All right. Now, when you have the S-I-O-N ending, spelling shun, remember those are words that end in a double S. So we have the word possess. Okay. And all you're going to do is you're going to drop one S and add S-I-O-N. S-I-O-N to make possession. Another example might be confess. It ends in that double S. So I would just add the I-O-N. Okay? That's what happens when you have a double S. It's just S-I-O-N. All right. Now, your fifth rule that you learned in these 5 units says that the pronunciation of a base word sometimes changes when a suffix is added. So if you remember last week's words, we had the word atom. Okay, remember that means the smallest particle of matter. And it actually changes pronunciation. And pronunciation, remember, is how we say a word. So if I say the word atom, but now I add the suffix IC, or ic, it becomes atomic. So do you see how the pronunciation of atom, I don't say atomic, I say atomic. So when I add that suffix, it changed the pronunciation of this word. Another example that you saw last week was the word major. Okay, you say major when it's by itself, but when we add the suffix ity, so if we add plus ity, we say majority. Do you hear how I changed the pronunciation of that? We don't say majority, we say majority. Sounds much better, huh? Okay, and my last example for this, we had the word preside. Now, when preside, when we add the suffix ent, it becomes this new word. And how do we say that? Can you say it? President. You're right. So the whole pronunciation changes when we add the suffix of ent. So don't forget that sometimes the pronunciation of word changes when you add the suffix. All right, and the last concept that we're going to review, just erase here, is your prefixes. Now every unit in the past 5 units has had a group of words with prefixes on them. Now the prefix doesn't necessarily change the spelling of the base word. So remember that when you're adding a prefix to the beginning of a word, it doesn't change the spelling of the base word before it. So some prefixes that I want to talk about, uni. Do you remember what uni means, or una? Okay, you use it in words like unison or unicycle. Okay, una, I like to think of the word unicorn. Okay, are you picturing a unicorn in your head? Yeah, it has, okay, let me do my best. Oh boy, Mrs. Wilson is such an artist. Just kidding. So I have my unicorn here, and remember they have one horn. So I like to think of the word one. And that's what una means. So when you add the prefix una to anything, it means one. Okay. Our next prefix I want to review with you is quad. Now, are you remembering what quad means? Quad means 4, and I'm going to put the number 4 there. And you'll see it in words like quadriceps, and those are your muscles that are, you sometimes call them your thigh muscles, but there's 4 muscles there, and that's why we call it your quadriceps. You might see this word in math, quadrant. Okay, that's when you have 4 areas of your graph and you break it up into quadrants, like so. Okay, so remember, quad means 4, and this is my favorite one. I like to think of kids here. Quadruplets. Quadruplets means 4 of the same kid. Well, not the same kid, but 4 babies at a time. So like twins is 2 babies, triplets is 3, quadruplets would be 4. Okay, and that's always fun to have 4 at the same time. Maybe you know some quadruplets. All right, our next prefix is oct. And if you remember, oct means 8. So, octagon. Okay, we can draw our stop sign here because that's an octagon. It has 8 sides. Okay, an octet is a singing group with 8 voices. All right, so oct is kind of easy to remember. Oct, and this is probably the word you most remember it for, octopus. An octopus has 8 legs. Okay, our next prefix that you saw is kilo. Kilo, if you remember, means 1,000. Okay, 1,000 with a D. So if we had kilogram, remember that's 1,000 grams. Okay, and a kilometer is 1,000 meters. So kilo is 1,000. All right, and our very last prefix that I want to review with you is milla. Can you be thinking of milla or milli, some people might say? Do you remember what that prefix means? You see it a lot in math. Okay, that one means thousandth, and I'm going to underline the TH there because thousandth is smaller. Remember, it's on the other side of the decimal. It's smaller than 1, and it's 1,000th of 1. So you see it in words like millimeter, okay, which is 1,000th of a meter. So imagine your big meter stick, just 1 tiny little 1,000th of that. Okay, you'll see milliliter, and that's 1,000th of a liter. How many of you have ever seen this word? Millipede. Okay, that's your bug here with 1,000. Mrs. Wilson doesn't have time to draw 1,000, but you get the idea. They have 1,000 little legs. 1,000th. Okay, so remember that these prefixes have meanings. When you see them on the word, on the base word, they don't change the spelling of the base word. You just add the prefix to the front of the word. All right, now that you've had a little review, you can go ahead and go back to the Illuminate classroom, and I'll see you there.